prepare to do that. Okay.
David, can you speak up?
Yes, I can. That buzz or that hum that you heard is a product of my microphone or my connection to the microphone. And yes, I'll speak up. So, is this sufficiently loud?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So, those niggling everyday griefs. We have our annual meeting after our session today. And of course, we have our 7 o'clock Monday, Wednesday, Friday activities with the TED Talks, with Mastermind Prayer Circle, and with our TGIF. We have a organizational team meeting for Unity Buddies coming up on Wednesday, 6:15 to 6:45. So if you'd like to participate in that team, join us here in the Zoom session at 6:15 on Wednesday. Also, there are comments that are dropped into the chat box from time to time. Some of them may be directed specifically at you. So if you see an icon come up or a chat come up in your icon bar on the bottom, that could well be a chat message for you. So check it out. And we have a gratitude journal and annual gratitude journal available. Go to our website and you'll see it. It's also in our, it's in our newsletter, not on our website yet. I'm still going to be working on website modifications here shortly. Okay, with that then, Doug, if you would, love is flowing like a river. Love. Thank you, Doug. We had some sound issues there, as we all are aware. So that's interesting. Um, our affirmation for Living Water Unity, and together, please. Living Water Unity is a thriving spiritual community inspired to embrace and share our abundant good now. I am empowered for joyful living by expressing God in each moment. And our daily word. Who would like to read the daily word this morning?
I will.
Okay.
Daily word is oneness. I am divine. Over the years, I have learned there is a spark of divinity within me and within all people. This divine spark binds us as members of one family and deepens our awareness of God. Today, my understanding of my divinity expands. My divine nature is so much more than a spark. It is my essence, who I truly am. I realize I don't have to rely on anything outside myself for love, comfort, and guidance. Everything I could ever need from God is already mine and is expressing as me. My realization of oneness extends to all people, whom I now see as fellow divine beings, freed from an illusion of separation. I am aware of the divine presence everywhere, expressing through everyone. We are divine. The scripture is John 17:21, that they may all be one. As you, Father, are in me, I am in you. May they also be in us.
Thank you, Rose. And our affirming prayer. We've added a note here concerning prayer support through the week. If you'd like prayer support, you can go either to our website, livingwaterunity.org /prayer, or you can go to Silent Unity either by phone or by email. So if you are so inclined for prayer support, you can also give me a call during the week as well. Our affirming prayer. Now, as we share this prayer, after we complete this first prayer, I will ask for any prayers that you each would like to offer. We'll hold those prayers in this crucible of unconditional love among all of us, and for 10 or 12 seconds, and I'll complete that period of consideration of that prayer with, and so it is. So we begin. As we acknowledge that this space that we are in is sacred space, this time is the only time that we can be in communion with God, and in that awareness of this sacred moment, we know that God is a love that has no end and a power that knows no bounds. God's healing power of divine life is restoring, healing, and revitalizing our world in this very moment. We let go of any fears or anxieties, and we affirm that all are safe, healthy, and protected. We bless all those who support us in maintaining vibrant, radiant health. We express divine life in all we think, say, and do. And we bless our global family with radiant health, peace of mind, and abundant love. Breathing into that prayer and holding that prayer in this vessel of unconditional love. And so it is. I invite you to offer your prayers one at a time, and we will conclude that consideration with, and so it is. So please, your prayers.
I'll start off. I would request some prayers for the situation at my duplex, that it goes as well as it can, and that everyone will participate and find their peace, and that it is swiftly ended. Thank you.
And so it is.
Bob and I would like to offer a prayer of thanksgiving. Our son Carl, who has had COVID, hasn't had a fever, and he's been told by the University of California, Santa Barbara, that he is released from his quarantine as of today. He can go outside, he can drive to the grocery store for pickup, he doesn't have to stay in his apartment, and he is feeling a lot better. He had the mild kind. He's still tired, but doing much, much better.
Holding Carl in Thanksgiving. And so it is. I'll offer a prayer for Shannon and Jake and the family as they encounter this new experience starting Saturday of this week. They're moving into their new house up in Berthoud, and holding them in the light that all goes well as planned, and that the move is effective and uneventful. And so it is. Are there any other prayers?
I would like to offer prayers for our new president, that our country has begun to heal and that he will be successful in all of his endeavors.
And so it is. Are there any other prayers? For all of those prayers unspoken, for all of those in need of prayer and perhaps not even aware of it, and for all of those that are seeming to have a lack of love in their life. We hold them in consciousness. We see them lifted and embraced, transformed by the presence of God's love in their lives. And for this, together we say Amen.
Amen.
Well, Doug, you have some music for us, I trust.
Play a tune by James Taylor. This goes out to Clarence. It's called It's Enough to Be On Your Way. I used to play this before the service sometimes, but and it's not a jazz tune, but here we go. I hope was the sound weird on the first thing?
The sound was weird on the first thing. It was cutting in and out.
Does that sound okay?
It's solid now.
All right, let's give it a try.
And I remind you, if you want to go to speaker view, click the view icon, click on speaker view, and you'll see Doug in all of his glory with short haircut and trimmed beard and everything. Thank you, Doug. So I'm experimenting with my microphone. Are you able to hear me now? Yes? No?
Sound? No sound?
Can you?
That was gorgeous. And your haircut looks really nice.
It's out of my face.
Well, congratulations. Are you able to hear me now? Can you hear me
David,
now?
I don't hear you speak and
Okay.
go on.
How about now?
Yep.
Now? Okay. All right. So, those niggling everyday griefs. Boy, 2020 has been quite a year, or was quite a year. Thank you. Let's put it in the past. But COVID and the appearance of COVID has had its lasting effects. And obviously, where are we now? But it has caused issues, health issues for certain, economic issues that we're all quite familiar with. We have had impacts on our careers, our jobs, our relationships, lost opportunities to visit friends, lost hugs from the grandkids, just having an evening out, being able to go out and enjoy a meal in the presence of other people. COVID has certainly proved to us that we are social animals and we thrive on the social aspects of our lives. But even just the disruption of our normal routines, we can't go to the grocery store without a mask. We have to be careful about who we allow into our bubble. It's had a to varying degrees, it's had a devastating effect on us. And we've even had loss of loved one, loss of good friend, loss of pets. There's a whole spectrum of grief that we have encountered in this last year, and perhaps more so than we have in recent memory. But I'd like to hear from you. What have been your experiences of grief? How have you handled them? Um, Please.
I'll start. Something that just occurred to me now is not that I haven't thought about this, but for me today, I'm feeling the loss of our place of worship, the loss of the financial support that Bingo gave us, even though I wasn't particularly proud of that way we got revenue. It's still between COVID and now a new chapter for us as a congregation. I feel that loss.
Yes, we also miss the hugs on Sunday morning and the singing together. I always enjoyed,
Hmm.
and the applause together.
Hmm.
I agree with all that. I miss it too.
I feel the loss of just general civility in our country. That just feels so foreign to me.
Hmm.
Just being able to go out into the community, being part of a community, shopping, interacting with strangers. It just doesn't happen for me anymore.
Going to say pretty much exactly the same thing, just the everyday contact. browsing through a store in a relaxed way. Maybe even touching some things that you're considering. All of those little, just the little contacts you have with people and the world.
I miss being with members of my family. Janine is the only one that comes into our house because I don't want to expose myself and others to all the interaction from my family, which they go everywhere and they're young, you know. But I miss that intimacy. My granddaughter is coming down tomorrow and we're going to find a restaurant where we can be outside, and it's going to be cold, but it's the only way we can keep that communication going. Texting, they're texters, you know, and it just doesn't do it sometimes. So I'm thankful for Zoom, that's for sure.
There's something about the loss of the face, you know, with the mask covering. The smiles are very subtle. They basically amount to a wrinkle in the eye, and having that loss of connection with people that our facial expressions facilitate is is well, it's one of those niggling little griefs. Anyone else? You know, I know people have lost pets. I know people have lost loved ones. I know people have lost relationships. It's been a tough year, and it's um, those griefs that we encounter on a regular basis, whether it be something as simple as not being able to have a friend over for coffee because they're quote outside our bubble, or we have a lost pet. We've had a lost relationship. I mean, Linda and I, what brought this talk to mind was Linda and I are about to go into this empty nest syndrome. And the closer it gets, the harder it feels. Uh, but all of these griefs have an effect on us. They drain us from our experience of joy. Um, and if there's if there's any significant impact that griefs have on us, it seems to me that it is that loss of opportunity for joy. Because you know, it's said that grief is cumulative. I'm not absolutely certain of that. Certainly, when we have a series of significant griefs, they can be really devastating. They can be debilitating. They can sap us of our life energy. Um, but I'm thinking rather than grief is like something poured into a bucket, it's really something like grief is poured into a bucket that has holes in the bottom, so that over time there is some healing process that some of that grief drains away. And I haven't run across any experiments that would prove that to be the case. But my own personal experience is that yeah, we accumulate these griefs and we go about our business, we go about our day, we go about our week to week, and the impact of that grief seems to decrease as some of that grief drains out of that bucket. But nonetheless, I do acknowledge that grief can have accumulating effects. Even these niggling everyday griefs can have that cumulative effect. So, a question that I would have before we talk about how to resolve grief is how do we define it? What when you are grieving, what is your own experience with grief? How would you define that? I mean, you can go to the dictionary, you can find a definition for it, but um, I think that's disjointed from that's disconnected from our personal experience. So I'd like to hear what your personal experience of grief is in any of its forms, whether it's the loss of a loved one, the loss of a relationship, loss of a job, loss of a disruption to our everyday experience. Speak to me.
I think for me, grief is the loss of normalcy in my life, in our lives. Uh, Different things when kids have gotten sick and Brian had real severe problems. We grieved. I grieved him as if I had lost that child until he came back from all his disabilities and so on. But grief is to me that loss of what is normal in my life, which changes, and sometimes it feels like it's irrevocable.
That's interesting. Thank you, Sandy. That's that's cool. Okay.
I think it's a sadness, and a, I agree with Sandy. It's like your normalcy is off kilter,
Mhm.
and you're not sure of which way to go. It's a sadness, and then a sudden, like, okay,
Mhm.
now what?
Hmm.
I think for me, having lost a couple of loved ones this past year, it's those times when it comes back to me, when I think, oh, I would like to text him about this, and I can't. There's nobody there to receive that text.
Yeah.
It's that inability to share the joys.
Hmm. And life experiences in general. It's that inability to share the challenges as well as the joy. Yeah. Thank you.
When I'm feeling grief, it's like a black cloud is hanging over everything.
Yeah. It's that. The absence of sunshine, the absence of that radiance of possible joy in our life. Yeah.
Well, for me, I see grief. For myself, it's an internal function. So my system stops working. My system says stop. And I usually wait until my body determines that I must stop. But I see it in the medical field over and over again. People are checking in with grief and stress in their life that has caused them different medical problems. So I see it as a medical issue.
Yeah, we're often encouraged to get over it, or we're encouraged to look at it a different way. We've lost a loved one, and someone well meaning says, well, look on the positive side. He's no longer suffering, right? That logic it doesn't heal that grief. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Rose.
Yes. You
Anyone
know,
else? Go ahead, Dick.
people talk, I was going to say, people talk about exactly what you're saying. We have reached the age that we're at, and we have learned life experiences out there, how to handle this and how to handle that. And we apply that without even thinking. But there are times when I feel like I'm a 2-pound sack trying to stuff 10 pounds of stuff into it. There's no room left for another drop. And all of the good sayings about, oh, this too will pass, have nothing to do with the moment. It's just overbearing. You just have to, at least I have to sit back and just trudge through until I get to the other side out there. But it takes a toll on me. And it takes a toll on the people around me also.
And trudging through is, you know, it's not resolving the grief. It's just letting us get on with our day so that the grief is not so dominant in our experience. Uh, yeah, the process of grief is a challenging one, and each person experiences grief in a unique way. The loss, whatever that loss is, a unique loss for that person. And it's very difficult for someone to come in and offer any advice that is really meaningful. It's difficult for someone to accommodate your grief in their life when they, in fact, may have other stuff going on. I know a person who stopped a relationship with a friend because the friend was constantly going to that person with their bucket of stuff, right? And not really being sensitive to the bucket of stuff that that the person had. And so uh, we try to help as best we can. We offer the I won't say it's ineffective, but it's irrelevant advice, and it's irrelevant because that grief experience is unique to each and every one of us. But that experience of grief being a unique thing, it really is up to us to develop the skills to address it. I, you know, I tend to look when I'm searching for an explanation, when I'm searching for answers, I tend to look at the simplest solution first. In science, it's referred to as the principle of Occam's razor. That Occam was a scientific philosopher back in the 15th, 16th centuries. But the principle is that when you have a whole realm of theory that you might apply to a situation, look for the simplest theory first and check that out. That might save you a whole lot of time. But um, as we look at grief, it's because it is such a complex, um, um, personal, unique experience. We each have to address that, and I think building the skills to address the grief, whether they're the niggling everyday griefs or they're the devastating, life-changing explosions in our lives, we, Dick, as you say, we get to this age, whatever this age is for us, and we've accumulated a series of tools that we use to address the pain in our life. But as we look at grief, I look at grief as being a violation of our expectations. Sandy, what you said earlier was the loss of normalcy. We go through our lives with this series of expectations of what's going to occur. You know, I have something I want to share with a friend, so I call up the friend and I expect that that friend is going to have time to talk to me, right? But if that friend doesn't have time to talk to me, there's that little bit of, oh, well, guys, what did I say to cause that person to be mad at me? Um, and certainly, our relationships, in and of themselves, by definition, they're complex. But we have these disappointments that occur in our day to day, all the way from the friend didn't have time to talk to me about this problem that I have, all the way to the fact that my dog just died, or my husband just died. I mean, there's a spectrum of expectations that are violated when we have this grieving experience. And so the simplest solution, going back to Occam's razor, the simplest solution to the realization that grief is based upon expectations that are no longer being met in whatever form leads me to a set of tools that gives me hope that I'll have the opportunity to resolve the grief that I'm experiencing. And you've heard me talk about this before, and I will talk about this again. But the fundamental experience of grief, being an unmet expectation, brings me to the question of why do I hold those expectations? What are those expectations doing for me? We might say, well, they're allowing us to anticipate some response to our day-to-day activities, and that will make it more effective. The expectation is this and that happens, so I know how to respond to that. The expectation is this and that doesn't happen, so I have this disappointment, I have this frustration, I have this anger, I have this rage, something along that. And grief is part of that. I mean, Kubler-Ross talked about the 5 stages of death and dying. That's often been referred to as the 5 stages of grief, that wasn't her intention. But oftentimes when we lose someone, when we lose a relationship, when we lose a pet, when we lose a loved one, that we have these various stages that we go through in that grieving process, one of which is anger. And so back to the simplest explanation, the grief is arising from some level of unmet expectation. That is resolvable. We can resolve that expectation. And if grief is cumulative to some extent, maybe to a greater extent for some than others, but if grief is cumulative to some extent, then it would make sense that we resolve each grief that we encounter as we go, so that it does not accumulate in any significant way. And that is really hard to do when we lose a loved one. That's really hard to do when we lose a pet. That's really hard to do when we lose a job or a career. And COVID has had its effect on all of this in the last year. So, resolving the expectation is about dissolving that expectation. It's about recognizing that expectation, whether or not it has worked for us in the past, is nonetheless an unreal opinion to have, because we may have an expectation, but reality doesn't match it. Is that the fault of reality? Is that the fault of the expectation that we have put out there? Or is that our fault for having that expectation? And so we come to the solution of resolving the expectations as they arise so that they don't become an accumulation of these niggling everyday griefs. And that is to find our joy. When we are able to find our joy, those expectations that are unmet lose their significance, they lose their impact, they lose their power. And whether it be a grievance that we hold or it be a grief that we've experienced, the dissolution of the expectation is the solution. And there we come to unconditional love, the practice of offering unconditional love to the moment, even if we're not in a prayerful mode, even if we're not in a meditative state. But as we go about our day, if we can develop the practice of offering unconditional love to the moment, is a powerful way to drain the energy from these unmet expectations, regardless of their size. And in fact, as we practice it, we become more adept at applying that unconditional love to those unmet expectations to dissolve them. And so, as I've been experiencing this coming empty nest, I've become more and more aware. Oh, I know the solution to this. This is, I've been talking about this for the last 20 years, right? I know the solution to this. Now I just need to be disciplined in my approach and offer unconditional love. Unconditional love, not because of some condition that exists, not because of some relationship that has met my uh, criteria for being worthy of unconditional love, but because unconditional love is the purest form of God talk. It's the purest form of our experience of the divine in this moment, is to feel that presence of unconditional love and how it allows us to feel connected with the all that is all. What was our daily word this morning? Oneness. Unconditional love, as we practice it on a day to day, hour to hour, minute to minute, and second to second basis, allows us the avenue into that realization of oneness. And when we are in that feeling of oneness, we're feeling the connection. The expectations are dissolving. The arising of grief, while it may occur in some moment, we have the resolution of that. That we recently bought a car, and we bought the car as the ownership of the X3 was being transferred to me through an agreement that we had back in 2013. But as that transfer of ownership occurred, we had this series of mechanical problems that created a potential repair bill of $12,000. $12,000, my God. I looked at the blue book on the car, and the blue book was something in the neighborhood of $3,300 to sell it to a private individual. And I could just imagine investing $12,000 in this car. It was 12 years, 12 years old. Um, Talk about an expectation. So we went out and bought a new car, or it's actually a used car. It's a 2017. And so I went down and to have the plates applied. I couldn't carry the plates from the old car to the new car because actually I didn't own the old car when it was had its license plate. So they asked me if I wanted to have a special plate. I have often thought, wouldn't it be interesting to have a plate that reflects this teaching that I constantly harp on because I need to learn it? I constantly harp on it. I need to learn it. Let me have a plate that reminds me of that. So I bought this. I bought this vanity plate. Yeah, it's called a vanity plate, and I admit it was a vain thing to do, but it is you and I are number one. You and I are one. Okay, so I've long had that as a special email address when I'm working in a counseling environment. But you and I are one is now a license plate on our car. I realized after I bought the car, though, that if I'm going to continue to drive South St. Vrain Canyon in the habit that I am driving South St. Vrain Canyon, as I pass people, they're going to look at my license plate and says, "You and I are one." Oh, you are. So, okay, I'm just going to have to live with that. But it's a good reminder for me that you and I are one. That unconditional love in the moment, that unconditional love as a practice, that unconditional love conditioning my experience of oneness is a powerful reminder for me that, yeah, the empty nest is coming, but thank God, the family is healthy. They have a great new house they're moving to. We're going to have space. We're going to be able to run around our house naked, and we will have the opportunity to rebuild our relationship. Linda and I have been we we've been the elders in the house, but we've got some great opportunities for some new experiences, and yay God. Yeah, let's leave it at that. Um, I'd like to play this music for you, and this is music by Sue Riley. I'd like to play this music for you, and then we will move into meditation. Okay, so instead of meditation first and music a second, let's do the music first. This is Sue Riley. Um, she is sharing this piece. Okay, where did you go? Hang on a sec. I know it's here. I know it's here. There it is. Okay. Yeah, we will share this.
All we can do is be there for each other in these times when we don't know what to do. All we can do is be there for each other and help each other through. All we can do is be there for each other in these times when we don't know what to do. All we can do is be there for each other and help each other through. Twist and turns, unexpected, day by day moving on. I don't have all the answers, come what may, right or wrong. All we can do is be there for each other in these times when we don't know what to do. All we can do is be there for each other and help each other through. Crashing waves touch the shore. Time moves faster every day. Ebb and flow, no control. All that's left to say each other in these times when we don't know what to do. All we can do is be there for each other and tell each other through, and tell each other through.
So, as we settle into this time, realizing that this, again, this moment right now is a sacred time, I invite you to allow your body to relax, bring yourself up and through this experience of quiet. Allow yourself to be resting in the moment. Here in this moment, we have the opportunity to look at what our burdens are. Do we have any grieving that is not yet resolved? Do we have any grief that needs to find its healing? There may be some underlying significant grief, or there may be just a series of niggling everyday griefs. But find a grief that needs to be resolved. Consider the basis of that particular experience of grief. Are you finding that there is some expectation there that is not being met? If you consider it with an objective eye, you will probably find that. But allow that particular grief to just rest with you now. Summon that unconditional love that is always available to us. I use the image of a grandchild in my arms, but you find that stimulus of your own experience of unconditional love. It might be a relationship with a person or a relationship with a pet. It might even be just the awesome experience of a beautiful sunrise or a mountaintop vista. Allow yourself to experience that unconditional love in whatever form. Feel how that feels. Feel where it is sensed in your body. Focus on that part of the body where that feeling of unconditional love arises. Feel how that unconditional love feels. Allow it to fill you. Allow it to reach into every dark corner of your consciousness and and show this light of love. And also realize that unconditional love, unless it flows through you into the moment, it is stifled. It is disempowered. So allow it to flow through you. Allow it to expand. See that unconditional love as a healing balm that is addressing your issues of grief as well as the issues that are present in the moment. Allow that unconditional love to flow into that universal consciousness, establishing that connection of oneness with that universal consciousness. Envision that unconditional love moving through you as a silver cord, connecting you with all of creation. Feel that healing power of that unconditional love transforming you at a cellular level, nourishing every thought that you have, empowering every word that you speak, engaging every action that you perform. Feel the power of that unconditional love to transform your moment, raising your experience into connectedness. And whether the mask is present on your face or not, your expression, your pressing out of this unconditional love empowers those around you, brings them peace, brings them a sense of being embraced if they are not already experiencing it themselves. In this mode, you are a messenger of God. You are a minister of God's word. You are the avenue and the vessel of love in people's experience. Your purpose on this planet has now expanded to be the healer, the lover, the prophet, the power. Breathe into that. Feel that. Know that. It is real. It is not part of your imagination. It is real. You and we are blessed by your realization. In this consciousness, joy is your experience. The radiance of your joy is powerful. And it is in this realization that we say thanks. 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 And as we come back into this time, into this space, feeling this power of love that we have been blessed with, we can remember that this is not a momentary experience that we need to leave now, but it is a momentary experience that we can practice day in, day out. For this we give thanks. Breathing deeply, reconnecting with time, with space, with the presence of this community. Thank you, God. Let me share with you. Yes, I know I can. There it is. Oh, where's our there's our offered blessing. Okay. So as we consider this community of which we are a part, as we allow ourselves to connect with the importance of this community for us, remember that we are supported by the tithes and offerings of our community members. So holding those offerings in our hands or holding those offerings in our minds, let us bless them with this offering blessing. Together, please. Divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I have and all that I give and all that I receive. I give in love because I trust in God. Yea, God. Doug, if you would, let's share our closing benediction. Doug?
Let there be. Oops.
Might help if I turn my speaker up. Okay. Thank you, Doug. And together, please. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. And the presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. Thank you. And Kay, if you would please.
As we prepare to release our circle and extinguish this flame, we honor the divine light it represents, and we carry that light within us into the world to protect us, to illuminate us, and to guide our actions.
Thank you. And thank you all for being here this morning. Remember, we have annual meeting coming up here in just a minute. If you need
David,
to,
I went ahead.
go ahead.
David, I went ahead and sent a link to the agenda in Google Docs
Okay.
to everybody in chat. Let me know if that's not correct. You may have to bring it up on your screen.
Okay. I'll pull that up and see what we've got. You just sent the link here recently?
Yeah.
I'm not seeing it. Okay.
Okay.
Let
Then you're
me,
gonna have to.
let me just pull it up separately
Okay.
here. Annual meeting agenda. I know it's here. I know it's here.
Should be the very first
There
thing
it
in Google
is.
Drive.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's there. And come back here and let's see. Share the screen. Okay. Are you able to see that now?
Give us a thumbs up if you can see it.
Well,
Part of it.
Yeah, I can only show part of it, turns out. Let me reduce
David?
this somewhat and increase the size. All right. So, all right.
Okay. Are we ready to begin, or do we need a couple minutes?
Yeah, if you need to take a break, get a glass of water or something, let's start in 5 minutes. Okay.
Okay.
I'll stop share right now so we have an opportunity to converse.
I'm really pleased that my dad was able to join us today. He's we don't see him and he's muted right now, but I think he was able to participate. Yay! Jeff Grafe, that is a very interesting sheet or whatever that is. Curtain.
Oh, Jeff? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's a mix of the virtual background and a curtain background.
Oh, I see. Very interesting.
I've
Rose,
got,
I'm glad.
go ahead.
Rose, I hope you're feeling better today. Rose took the day off work today because she was a little under the weather. Glad to see you.
Thanks. It was really, really good to participate for once. I was like, it's been months and months. So
It
that
has
was
been.
great.
We've missed you on Sunday. We've enjoyed your presence during the week. So thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. I enjoyed being here today. And I think it's about time to go take a little nap, rest back up.
Oh.
I want to tell Doug thanks a lot for
Stick around, Rose.
the tune this morning.
Yeah.
I haven't
Yes.
heard that. I haven't heard that one in a long time. It was really good to hear it again.
I like that.
What's that?
Thought of you this morning when I was looking through some of the stuff I used to play, so I thought you